Hello everybody, today I'm talking about the world's favourite blue oval, Ford, and why I think they need to do some serious soul searching, because I genuinely believe if they carry on the path they seem to have set themselves on, I think they're headed one way and one way only, and that is an express train to extinction. I've been thinking about making a video like this for quite some time, but the fact is I just haven't felt qualified, because I am certainly a car person and I talk to a lot of people in the car industry, including several that are at Ford, contacts I have over in the States. I just don't know Fords. I know more about Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Toyota, Kia, Lexus, Nissan, loads of other brands, but Ford, I just don't. I haven't really driven all that many Fords. In fact, I'm sure I've probably owned more BMWs than I've driven Fords in the last 6 months. And so for that reason, I felt if I was to go and talk about Ford the company and their whole future without really understanding their past, it wouldn't go so well. But things have got to a certain point now where the issues seem like ones that are big rather than little, and I do feel qualified to talk about the big brushstroke stuff. Maybe the minutiae I don't quite understand, maybe there's stuff that I don't get, and if you're a Ford fan and you're watching this video, I would love your feedback on it. I'd love your take on this, because as far as I see it, Ford have got a couple of pretty big, pretty fundamental problems. Here they are. Number one, Ford is trying to evolve. This is something that's been going on for quite some time now. And in the UK, I think we've been sort of immune to this. I don't think we've seen this. But in the USA, I know this might sound silly, Ford does not want to be seen as a car maker. Now, if you don't believe me, hop over to Ford's US website, where I was for a moment absolutely terrified that they were using some horrendous 90s marketing because they were doing the Explorer men's only edition. Luckily, it turned out to be a very nice feature for International Women's Day, where they talked about all the very important women that have contributed to various things in the development of Ford and therefore the automobile. But at the top, you'll see several sections for Ford's product: SUVs and crossovers, trucks and vans, electrified, and then cars. And that's a little bit of a misleading thing, cars, because what they mean is car. They do the Mustang. That's right, Ford has been this way in the USA for quite a while now. They make the Mustang and trucks. That's pretty much it. And the truck range, or the SUV range, is pretty ridiculous. They do the EcoSport, Escape, Bronco Sport, Bronco, Explorer, Edge, Mustang Mach-E, the Expedition, and then you've got the Maverick, Ranger, F-150, Transit Connect, Super Duty, F-150 Lightning, E-Transit, and Transit. That's Ford's, truck and crossover lineup. That's Ford cars in the USA. But you see, this historically wasn't really a problem, because one of the things that Ford was excellent at was producing cars that appealed to a particular market. You ask a lot of people in Britain, and I suspect particularly older ones, they'll actually feel like Ford is a British company, because we made a lot of Fords here. You speak to anybody who owned an old Capri, and many of them will be proud of the fact that it was built in Halewood, or they had other cars built down at Dagenham. We had a very, very long and illustrious relationship with the firm, to the extent that it's very much a part of our culture. You drive through London, you see this huge site, it's vast, Ford's Dagenham plant, and a bit sad really to go past because it's basically gone now. I think they make van engines, that's pretty much it. But the fact was, Ford, very much British, and it was a great British success, because we had so many cars here that appealed to the British car buyer, from the likes of the Capri to the Escort in its many different generations, the Sierra, the Fiesta, the Focus, the Mondeo, all sorts of brilliant cars that were quite popular and good sellers in their day. Even until recently, the Fiesta occupied a spot on Britain's top 10 best-selling car lists. But Ford have killed it. The Fiesta is going to be no more. And though I haven't seen much in the way of official reasoning for this, I think it's indicative of the problem that Ford have. And the loss of the Fiesta really is one of the things that sparked me to want to make this video, because I think it's a real crying shame. I know that we have this impending deadline where all new cars have to be fully electric, and the fact is the Fiesta simply wasn't ever going to be, with enough redevelopment that it wasn't really going to be a Fiesta at the end of it. But the fact is we're at least 7 to 15 years away, depending on the market, from requiring vehicles to be fully electrified, and that was easily enough time to have got another generation of Fiesta in. And even if you were going to have to say, okay, look, we've got to lose the Fiesta ST, which would have been a disaster, and I'll get onto that in a bit, but we can still make the Fiesta, it would have sold. People would have bought it. There are enough people out there that aren't convinced by the likes of all the different crossovers that companies, including Ford, now make, and the Fiesta just worked for people. My sister's got one. She loves it. My neighbours have got one. They love it. The Fiesta is a great car. Even I begrudgingly love the Fiesta. I shouldn't, for reasons that are all completely wrong, but actually it's a brilliant car. However, Ford are canning it. And the reason, I think, is because they're trying to achieve two things at once, and the two really are intertwined. First off, they're trying to electrify the entire brand. And at this point in time, Ford's sole electric offering really is the Mustang Mach-E, which is crap. Honestly, it is. I've driven a couple of them and they're atrocious. I don't think they look very good. I think putting the Mustang name on it is a real mistake. It doesn't drive all that great, and there's some absolutely baffling design choices that honestly I don't know how they made it past the sort of prototype stage. It's just not a very good car, and it starts at £50,000. And this leads me on to the other part of the problem. Ford is also trying to move the company a little bit more upmarket. Now this is going to be very necessary because EVs all cost a lot more than their combustion engine counterparts, and so to justify this extra price you need to have a little bit of a brand cachet. But the problem is, for the last, 3 decades, Ford in Europe has been suffering because as soon as we got decent, cheap PCP and lease deals, people stopped buying the likes of the Mondeo and started buying the German equivalent, because when you could have had a 3 Series or a C-Class for, £40, £50 a month more than a Mondeo, why wouldn't you? And I suppose in many ways this is a case of Ford reaping what they have sown, because to a lot of people Ford kind of introduced this sort of automotive hierarchy, the trim levels that meant everybody knew who was who. If you haven't watched the absolutely brilliant documentary From A to B, Tales of Modern Motoring, please seek it out. The episode with company car drivers, though it's not exactly true to life, is close enough, and I knew enough of these people that it's equal parts hilarious and terrifying. But in short, in the 80s and 90s, reps, people selling products, doing hundreds of thousands of miles or whatever over a few years, up and down the motorway all day long, they had their company cars, and your company car was your status symbol. The company car said who you were, how senior you were in the company. And so you get this weird scenario where you have people absolutely set that they must have the I badge on the back. Regardless of whether the car actually is or isn't injected, the I badge says a lot. The whole episode actually is called The Eyes Have It, because this was such a big thing. Seeing if somebody had, solid or hollow headrests, that told you so much. Has that guy got a cassette player? Has he got a cassette? Has he got FM and AM? Because he might be better than me if he does. This whole weird thing. And unfortunately, Ford had their hierarchy, they had all their models, but no matter what you did, no matter what you said, no matter who you were, a BMW was better than a Ford. A Mercedes was better than a Ford. And in most of Europe, and even the USA as well, this is kind of how the world works. This is how a hierarchy works. And there was nothing wrong with Ford being a more affordable entry-level car that had greater mass appeal. But the simple fact is, the global appeal of cars is kind of shrinking a little bit, and they're becoming a more expensive, more premium thing. And if you're going to have to spend money on it, you might as well get something with a premium badge. If Ford really want to be the revolutionary company that they have been in the past, I'd like to see a Fiesta electric that's 20 grand and still does 250 miles. But it's not going to happen, is it? I think it's physically impossible for it to happen at the minute. So Ford is trying to electrify itself. It's trying to move itself up market. but it doesn't have a decent electric car offering, and it doesn't have the brand ability to move itself upmarket. More than that, Ford is also trying to make its offerings more globally homogenous. You see, Ford had cars tailored to specific local markets, sometimes a whole continent, sometimes a specific country. But they now want cars that can appeal to everyone, and the fact is, that ain't going to work. For none of the American car makers is it going to work. And there's a few reasons for it. One is the fact that American car makers do like to build cars where they can in America. And this isn't for all of their models, but for many. However, American car makers have sort of told their buyers over so many decades that they should expect a certain number of features, power, performance, all this sort of stuff, for a very low price. They then finance the bejesus out of these things, and they make profit only on the fact they can sell cars in huge quantities. But this isn't a plan that works. You can't do this whole big volume, small margin thing anymore. In fact, this was all proven and came to a head about 15 years ago when GM and Chrysler both had to ask for enormous bailouts from the US government, because if they didn't have them, then the sector was going to go under. And the fact is that because they're so dedicated, and I think it's a very good thing to sort of have, to building these cars in the USA, where labour is expensive, but the people don't really have enough money to pay a premium for these cars, the profit margin was like that. So the minute anything went wrong, whole thing fell apart. Ford survived because they already had massive credit to rely upon, and I think did a little bit better job of selling stuff overseas. GM and Chrysler, not so much. But the fact is that it's just not going to work. We Europeans are never ever going to buy a Ford Super Duty. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to. Even transits are quite a rare thing over in the USA. The needs of even the commercial sector are so totally different. It's daft to try and sell one product across the world and expect it to work. The Germans do it to some extent, but then their products are more premium. They sell in numbers that they can manage. But the Americans are so insular. They just look at the American market and they think it'll work everywhere, and it just doesn't. I suppose maybe they're not that stupid. The management aren't that stupid. They knew for a long time that this wasn't going to work. And you can see, really, the fundamental issue. They're chasing higher profit margin. They want to make money because they need to make it, because they need to invest in electric cars. But the fact is, I think they're going to suffer because I don't think that many people are going to pay that much for a Ford after being told for 50 years that a Ford just isn't worth that much money. And this in of itself is already a pretty darn big problem. However, there is a much, much bigger one. And the minute I saw this, and this is probably going to be the thumbnail. In fact, let me do the thumbnail now. So let me get over here. I think I can get over here. I need to look shocked for this. I need to look shocked. Get hands in, get hands in. Yeah, so what's the face for? Well, it's an article by Steve Fowler over at Auto Express. I'll put a link in the description. And the title of the article is "The Days of Affordable Mass-Market Ford Cars Are Over. Ford no longer sees itself as a volume car maker." I've known this for quite a while. This has actually been something the Americans have been talking about for about 6 or 7 years at least. However, the article then goes on to talk about different job cuts, how Ford are restructuring, changing where they build various different things and all that sort of stuff. But there is one quote in here which is attributed to a Ford spokesperson, unnamed, but presumably Ford have seen this article and not taken issue with it because it's still up. And it says, Ford cannot continue to be a volume manufacturer making okay products. Well, that's already that's a very British thing to do, really. That's, very self-deprecating Ford. I don't think it's your place to actually judge how good or bad your products are, but it doesn't exactly instill confidence that you think that they're only okay, when even many a road tester said that many a Ford product was a brilliant thing. However, that's not the problem. The next part is, we want to deliver vehicles that put a smile on customers' faces and that they are proud to own. Wow. Wow, Ford. Did one of your spokespeople actually really say that? Because, right, is there a child in the room? Is there a child? Okay, if there's a child, if that's true, Ford are fucked. I do promise that's going to be the only bad language like that in this video, but I think it was necessary because that is the scale of this problem. Here's the thing. If I were a Ford fan, of which there are many out there, this to me is just a spit in the face. This is somebody at Ford going, I don't know why you'd like any of our old products, they were all rubbish. Are you daft? People love their Fords. People are obsessed. People have Ford tattoos. There are people out there that are Ford through and through. You cut them and they bleed blue. This is unbelievable stuff for anybody over the age of certainly 40 or 50, and including a lot of younger people as well. Ford is a brand that has a huge amount of love here and abroad. In the States, you get people that will have Ford from the day they're born till the day that they die. Here, the Fiesta ST was such a great car, not only because it was a great car, but it was a first performance car. It was the beginning for many a petrolhead's real journey of discovery. And though Ford didn't have many other steps on the ladder above that, it was still a very memorable one, and a car that really appeals to a huge number of people that are also really proud to own their cars. People are generally very proud of their cars if they're a petrol head, and Ford, I think, are one of the best companies for having a really super loyal fan base. The number of people out there fawning over their old cars. I mean, an Escort, not an Escort, a Sierra. A Sierra just sold for nearly £600,000 at auction. We're currently in the midst of some sort of, mania. I can only describe it as that. It's some madness that has afflicted people to get them paying that much money for an old Ford. They ain't worth it. It's just not. I think this whole market's going to collapse. That's a separate video entirely. But people love their Fords. Look at the prices of old Fords. Look at the prices of old, anything that's Cosworth particularly, but old Capris, old Escort. People love their Fords. Even the Focus is valuable. A Ford Racing Puma is valuable. They're valuable because people want them. Because people didn't treat them well when they were new, but people did fall in love with them. And now, 20, 30, 40, 50 years on, people want them back because they were special, because they were proud of them, because they loved their Fords. And there is a whole market out here that Ford could tap into of people that own these older cars that could use a little bit of help, a little bit of support from the manufacturer. In terms of reproducing panels that you can no longer get, upgraded parts for older cars. Porsche have a good trade in making new head units that update older cars. There's so many things that you could be doing. In America, I know you've got lots and lots of performance bits. You should do more of that here. There's so much stuff that you could be doing. And this is what you think? You think people aren't proud of your products? That's daft, because if I was a Ford fan, if I'd had, a string of these things, Fiestas, Focus, Mondeos, the lot, old cars, new cars, and a guy from Ford said, yeah, you're not proud of any of those, are you? I would probably turn around and go, well, not now. If that's really how little you value the people that have built your company over the last 100+ years. Ford revolutionized the world. I don't just mean the car world, I mean the world. Ford changed it. Their place in history is assured. But I do worry that if this is the attitude of Ford, combined with the problems I've just spoke about, the fact they're trying to move a brand up market that's not really known for being up market, and the fact they're trying to build electric cars that clearly they aren't very good at, well, give it 10 years and the history book will be the only place you'll find a Ford, because this is just mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. And I would love the opinion of Ford fans out there. How do you feel? How has owning a Ford been for you in the last 10 years? Has it changed? Has it not changed? Is this one person's misguided view, or have you got a deeper connection with Ford? Do you work with Ford? Have you worked for Ford in the past? Is this how the company views itself, its staff, its future, its products, its people? I don't know. Like I say, I'm not a Ford person, but my life, I'll really mourn them if they go. Like, I really, really will. And with this stuff being said, it would be nobody's fault but their own. That'll be sad. Anyway, thank you to you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.